So there was a report that came out late last week about WWE being sold to the Saudis, and I had a lot of people in my DMs telling me it was true, and they were saying that yeah, it's a done deal. But it turns out that was not the case. It turns out that the Saudis are merely just one of the people, one of the groups that are interested in buying WWE. So I wanted to make an update video covering this story real quick. So basically what's going on is Vince McMahon is back, Stephanie stepped down, all of that stuff has already been covered, and he's there to facilitate the sale of WWE. Now, there's already been talk amongst people that he might end up back on the creative team with Triple H, or maybe even in charge of creative. But he's basically going to be there because he wants to assist in the sale. But as of right now, there has not been a sale done yet. So the sale has not been completed yet. The Saudis are interested, among other people like Amazon, Apple. I think I heard Disney being bantered about, with the idea being who's going to pay the most and who's going to take care of the legacy the most. Now, if somebody buys WWE and absorbs it, the likelihood of it becoming a private company and leaving the public stock exchange goes up, and the likelihood of that happening is probably going to be if the Saudis get it, because if Disney or somebody else gets it, that's going to probably stay public. It just depends on how they want to structure it. So I think the idea here is, in order for Vince McMahon to have some semblance of power, because we know that if somebody else buys the company, he will no longer be the top person in the company, and thus he will lose power. And obviously, based on what happened last year, I don't think he wants to give up his power quite yet, despite being an old man who's very wealthy. I'm not sure if he's really, truly ready to let go of that. I think he wants to make the sale, and again, he has not spoken about this yet. Maybe he will someday. He wants to make the sale, but he also wanted to make sure it's in the right hands. And that makes sense, because obviously this is something that was his life's work. Literally his entire life he's worked for this company and ran this company. And when he ends up passing away, that's going to be what he's remembered for. Like, that is what Vince McMahon accomplished, and that is making WWE a brand, a major, major brand. So of course he cares, but there's a lot of speculation that the reason as to why that story got out, like the story about the Saudis and actually straight up buying it, is because he's trying to inflate the price of the sale. So this is a trick that people do sometimes in negotiation and in business. And one of these days I may do a speak to them about this, where what some people do is they will basically make the statement of, oh, well, I'm being offered $8 billion. So if they feel like they're being under offered or undersold, or if someone's kind of giving them a low bar deal, like if somebody's offering Vince, let's say $3 billion for WWE, he can say, well, the Saudis are offering me 8, with the idea of trying to get that person or that entity to raise how much they pay. Now, obviously, I'm not sure if the Saudis are really offering 8, and I don't remember where I heard that number from. I heard the 8 billion number. It seems like a crazy number, but WWE is a very powerful brand. But I feel like, it's going to end up being a negotiating, bargaining tactic. Like Vince can say, well, okay, they're offering me 8, but if you offer me 5 and keep me in power, I'd rather go with you because it's not going overseas. And I'm not saying he did say that, but those are kind of how the negotiation bargaining tips go. Like, when you look at and you analyze big businesses, and when you analyze transactions like this, if you really study business, which I have studied a little bit, I'm not an expert on it, but one day I want to be an expert on it because it is something that's interesting to me. The higher level business you're dealing with and the more money you're in charge of, the more that you kind of have to put on that poker face. Sometimes you can show your emotions privately and maybe even publicly if it's the right move, but these guys who run these big companies are very good at manipulation. They're very good at having that poker face. They're very good at securing the deals they want. And so a lot of folks suspect that that story was purposely leaked by WWE to get interest going. The thing is, and a lot of experts have talked about this too, when it comes to the WWE stock, the stock is up. And I think with the stock being up, it's going to make the company more valuable for the sale to happen. So I think what they're going to do is do everything they can to keep that stock number up as high as possible before the sale's made. So I wouldn't be surprised if you hear stories about, oh, well, we're close to a sale, or we're nearly finalizing the sale, because if you're a shareholder and the sale goes through, you may end up doing very, very, very well. See what I'm saying? So, and I used to be a shareholder, but I sold my WWE stock a while ago. Maybe I shouldn't have, but I did. It is what it is. It's not one of my favorite stocks I've had either. It's been kind of volatile and, not really that great. But nonetheless, it is a global brand and it does make money. So that's the strategy here going forward. So I think really what I wanted to say with this video is, everything else I said in the previous video still stands as far as what's going to happen here. I think the idea will be that once the company is sold, that either Vince or Triple H or both of them will be in charge of the creative aspect, the storylines, TV production, things like that. Whereas the business aspect, in other words, how to make money, the big picture stuff, moving the company forward, that's supposed to be Nick Khan's sort of thing. But from what we understand, Nick Khan is still the CEO. So when the sale goes through, I think I heard he makes like 12% or so, which is an insane amount of money, by the way. 12% on $1 billion is a lot of money, y'all. Do the math. And that's going to be more than $1 billion. It'll be way more than $1 billion. But he's supposed to stay on as the CEO, or at least not as the CEO, but when the company gets bought, he will stay on as an executive. Maybe not the leader, but he'll be an executive like with Vince, and then he'll end up getting paid. I don't know about him being the lead guy, but I mean, that's kind of how it's going to work. So what does that mean for the future of wrestling? A corporation owning a wrestling company to me has always been disastrous. It's always been this way. Panda Energy with TNA, AOL Time Warner with WCW. I prefer it to be a family-owned and operated business, even how AEW is, or how wrestling has always been. Like the McMahons have always run the World Wrestling Federation, Entertainment, whatever you want to call it. They've always run that territory. And then you've got obviously people like, the Funks running Amarillo, and you've got the Grahams in Florida. Like wrestling's always been like a family thing. The Hearts up in, Calgary. Right? And so wrestling being run and owned by a family, to me, I think makes it really what it is in its purest form. And when it's run by a corporation, you're going to have things like homogenized content. You may be stuck. If Disney buys this thing, y'all, you may be stuck in the PG era forever. It might even become more kidified. They will do like really dumb things that they think works in outside media but doesn't work in wrestling. Like, really dumb, like uninteresting things, maybe even dumb storylines. And that's why it's important to have somebody like a Triple H or even a Vince still in charge of creative, because I would rather, I know a lot of folks don't like Vince in creative, but I would rather he being creative, running the company's creative, than a corporation. You understand what I'm saying? I prefer Triple H, of course, but I think if it's between Vince and Disney, for example, or NBC Universal or whomever buys this thing, I'm going to go with Vince because he at least has the experience and the knowledge and the skill set to be a great wrestling promoter, whereas, I don't think he's that great anymore, but nonetheless, it's still what he knows, and some executive is not going to understand the business like he does. So those are my thoughts. Hope you're having a great day today. Take care. More videos coming. And I hope you enjoy them. And of course, I'll be dropping some geekdom content over here until that copyright shit gets cleared up in the other channel. So it is what it is. It'll be cleared up soon. Take care. See you soon.